My CEO husband wanted an open marriage, and it backfired in his face. The sound of champagne flutes chiming against each other fills the air. A string quartet plays something elegant and forgettable. 600 voices murmur beneath crystal chandeliers, creating that particular hum of wealth performing its rituals. It took my husband 12 years to build a billion-dollar company. It took 8 seconds to destroy it. I am standing at the edge of the Axiom Dynamics Summer Gala, dressed in midnight Dior, holding a champagne flute I have not touched. The bubbles have gone flat. I have been holding this glass for 47 minutes. But no one has noticed. Because no one ever looks closely at the CEO's wife. We are decorative. We are functional. We are invisible, in plain sight. The massive screens around the venue cycle through company photos. Smiling employees at team retreats. Product launches. Leon shaking hands with investors. That particular smile he reserves for people who can make him richer. The screens are meant to celebrate Axiom's success story. They are about to tell a very different story. The image freezes. My husband, his chief people officer. Their bodies pressed together in what was supposed to be a private corner. Their kiss unmistakable, even from this distance. Even through the champagne haze of 600 people who are now completely, devastatingly silent. 600 people saw my husband's affair before I could blink. The irony is that I had known for months. I was simply waiting for him to catch up to his own destruction. The sound of the room dies. That particular quality of silence, when hundreds of people stop breathing at once. Someone drops a glass. The shattering sound is almost musical. Have you ever watched your entire life collapse and felt nothing but relief? Have you ever stood in the ruins of everything you built and realized the rubble was always the foundation? They will call me the victim, the betrayed wife, the woman left standing when the smoke cleared. But I was not standing there by accident. I was standing there by design. 3 months before that screen lit up with my husband's sins. He sat across from me at our $40,000 dining table, poured a $400 bottle of champagne, and proposed something he called modern love. An open marriage, he said. Complete honesty. Complete freedom. He had articles. Statistics. A therapist on retainer who specialized in alternative relationship structures. He had everything planned, except what would happen when I said yes. Because Leon Denning wanted permission to cheat, what he got was a mirror, and nobody, especially not a man who has built his entire identity on control, is prepared to see what they really look like. So here is the question that kept me awake for 12 years, and the question that finally set me free. When someone asks you for openness, are they offering vulnerability or demanding permission? When a powerful man wants to rewrite the rules, is he evolving or just ensuring he can never lose? This is the story of how my CEO husband proposed an open marriage and how it backfired in ways he never imagined. This is the story of what happens when a man who controls everything discovers the one thing he cannot control. Consequence. And maybe, just maybe, this is the story of how I stopped being an accessory to someone else's life and started becoming the architect of my own. A champagne flute shatters on marble. The string quartet stops. In the silence, everything begins. 3 months earlier, the Denning estate at dusk looks like it belongs in a magazine. It does belong in a magazine. 3 of them. Actually, Architectural Digest, Pacific Northwest Living, a sustainable design publication that praised our geothermal heating, while I stood in the background of every photo, arranging flowers that were already perfect. I am in the kitchen now, adjusting the placement of peonies in a crystal vase. The blooms are blush pink and ivory, chosen to complement the gray marble countertops. I grow them myself in the garden, tend them carefully, cut them at precisely the right moment. It is the kind of detail no one notices, but everyone would miss if it were absent. That is my specialty. making things beautiful in ways that disappear into the background. The salmon is resting, the Sauvignon Blanc is breathing. The table is set with the Heath ceramics we received as a wedding gift 12 years ago, before Leon was anyone, before this house existed, before I became whoever it is I am now. I catch my reflection in the window glass. 38 years old. Hair that still holds its color without assistance. A face that magazines once called striking, and now politely call elegant. I am wearing cashmere and silk and soft leather flats that cost more than my father earned in a month, back when he was playing jazz clubs in New Orleans, and my mother was teaching French literature to undergraduates who did not appreciate her. Somewhere between that childhood and this kitchen, I became someone I do not recognize. The sound of tires on gravel pulls me from the window. Leon's Tesla, gliding up the drive like it owns the earth beneath it. He has been at a leadership retreat in Napa for 3 days. I know this because his assistant sent me the itinerary. I also know that Maren Solberg, Axiom's chief people officer, was at the same retreat. I know this because I have learned to read between the lines of my husband's calendar the way I once learned to authenticate Renaissance paintings. The forgeries always reveal themselves in the details the forger thinks don't matter. The front door opens. I hear Leon's particular footfall, confident and measured, the walk of a man who believes every room has been waiting for him. Kim. His voice carries that warmth he deploys strategically. I arrange my face into the expression of a wife who has missed her husband. In the kitchen, he appears in the doorway, still wearing his Patagonia vest over a tailored shirt, silver touching his temples in that distinguished way. Women's magazines celebrate, and men's magazines promise. Marathon runner lean. TED Talk smile. My husband is handsome in the way that powerful men are handsome, which is to say that power has made him more attractive than his features alone would warrant. Something is different tonight. There is an energy beneath his composure, the particular vibration of a man who has rehearsed a speech and is eager to deliver it. I have seen this energy before, usually preceding major announcements. New funding rounds. Strategic acquisitions. The pivot that made Axiom a household name in cloud infrastructure. He kisses my cheek. His lips are cool from the evening air. You look beautiful, he says. That color is perfect on you. It is a gray sweater. The color is as neutral can be. But Leon compliments automatically, the way other people breathe. It is one of his gifts, making people feel seen while seeing nothing at all. We move to the dining room. I have set the table near the window, overlooking the Sound, where the sunset will paint the water gold during dinner. I pour the wine. He watches me with an attention that feels new, and not in a comfortable way. How was Napa? I ask. Transformative, he says, and that word lands in the space between us, like a stone dropped into still water. We eat. He talks about the retreat, the leadership exercises, the breakthrough conversations. He uses words like authenticity and intentionality and conscious evolution. I nod at appropriate intervals. I have been nodding at appropriate intervals for years. It is a skill, like flower arranging, like disappearing in plain sight. The salmon is perfect. He says so. I say thank you. We are performing a marriage the way actors perform a play, hitting our marks, delivering our lines. Then he sets down his fork. He reaches across the table and takes my hand. His eyes meet mine with an intensity I have not seen since the early years, when we were still learning each other's shapes. Kim, I want to talk to you about something important. I feel the ground shift beneath me, though I am perfectly still. I keep my face neutral, interested, receptive. All the things a good wife is supposed to be. I have been doing a lot of thinking, he continues, about us, about our marriage, about what we have built together and where we go from here. The pause stretches. He is waiting for me to prompt him, to lean in, to demonstrate my investment in whatever he is about to say. I do not. I simply wait. He continues anyway. Leon has never needed encouragement to hear his own voice. We have something remarkable, Kim. A partnership. A foundation. 12 years of building a life that most people only dream about. But I think we have both felt something shifting. Something that suggests we are ready to evolve. I notice he says we when he means I. He has always done this. Made his desires sound mutual. I want to propose something, he says. Something modern. Something that recognizes how strong our relationship really is. He squeezes my hand. His palm is dry and warm. The hand of a man who has never done manual labor, who has never dug in soil or washed dishes, or held anything heavier than his own ambition. An open marriage, he says. Complete honesty. Complete freedom. The ability for both of us to explore connections that fulfill us without threatening what we have. My wine glass hovers between the table and my lips. I do not move. I do not breathe. I simply process. He keeps talking. He has clearly been rehearsing this. He mentions articles he has read about polyamory, studies about relationship satisfaction in non-traditional arrangements. He suggests a therapist who specializes in alternative relationship structures, someone who can guide us through this transition. This is not about replacing you, Kim. His voice is earnest, almost pleading. This is about expanding our capacity for joy. We can both explore connections that fulfill us, knowing that our partnership remains the foundation. I listen to him speak about evolution and authenticity and the constraints of traditional marriage. I watch his face shift through expressions of vulnerability and hope. He is performing openness while calculating control. I can see the machinery beneath the emotion, the way I used to see the brushstrokes beneath the paint in my authentication work. He already has someone. This speech is not about possibility. It is about permission. He wants me to sanctify what he has already done. The question before me is what to do with this knowledge. Confront. Capitulate. Calcify into the silence I have perfected. My wine glass returns to the table. I meet his eyes. I hear myself say words I had not planned. Let me think about it. Relief floods his face. He had prepared for resistance, for tears, for the drama of a wounded wife. My measured response catches him off balance, but only for a moment. Then his smile returns, satisfied and confident. He believes he has won again. He believes he has engineered the outcome he wanted. Of course, he says. Take all the time you need. This is a big step. I want you to be comfortable. He returns to his salmon as if we have just discussed vacation plans. I return to my wine, swirling it gently, watching the legs slide down the glass. I think about the woman I was 12 years ago, the curator who challenged him at a gallery opening, who told him that data could never quantify beauty. The woman who had opinions and ambitions, and a voice that did not ask permission to speak. I think about how I let that woman dissolve, inch by inch, compromise by compromise, until I became this ghost in cashmere, arranging flowers in a house that has never felt like home. I think about the name Maren Solberg, appearing in his calendar like a signature forgery, and I think about what it would mean to say yes. Not because I believe in his modern love, but because I need time to understand my options. Because some buried part of me wonders if he is right, if I have failed to evolve, and because, beneath all of that, a darker calculation is forming. If Leon wants openness, I will give him openness, and I will watch what happens when the arrangement cuts both ways. The 3 weeks following Leon's proposal unfold like a slow-motion accident. He sends me articles, leaves books on my nightstand, with titles like The Ethical Slut and Opening Up. He schedules an appointment with the therapist he mentioned, a woman named Dr. Carla Mendez, who specializes in alternative relationship structures, and who, I discover through careful research, is also Axiom's corporate wellness consultant. Another of Leon's arranged endorsements, the expert who will validate whatever he has already decided. I go to the appointment. I sit in Dr. Mendez's soothing office, with its carefully chosen art and its view of the water. I listen as she explains that many successful couples find that opening their relationships actually strengthens their bond. I notice that she does not ask what I want. She asks how I feel about what Leon wants. There is a difference. Meanwhile, I investigate. Not confrontationally, not with the drama of a suspicious wife, but with the methodical attention I once applied to authenticating artworks. I learned long ago that forgeries reveal themselves in the details the forger thinks do not matter. A brushstroke inconsistent with the artist's known technique. A pigment unavailable in the period claimed. A canvas thread count that does not match the documented practices of the workshop. Leon's forgery reveals itself in calendar discrepancies. Phone records that show late-night calls to the same number. Expense reports that list investor dinners in cities where no investors are based. The overnight strategic sessions that produce no strategies I ever see. The name appears like a signature across all of it. Maren Solberg, Chief People Officer, 36 years old. Reported directly to Leon until 18 months ago, when she was promoted to the C-suite. The timing of that promotion now seems less like recognition of excellence, and more like an attempt to muddy the power dynamic. I watch them together at an Axiom event, one of the company happy hours I am expected to attend as decorative support. I stand near the bar with a sparkling water I do not drink, and I observe. They are careful, professional distance maintained. But I see the way his hand finds the small of her back when he thinks no one is watching. I see the way she leans into his orbit. The particular glow of a woman who believes she is chosen. I recognize that glow. I wore it myself, 12 years ago. She thinks she is special. I thought I was special once too. The irony does not escape me. Here I am, the wife, watching the other woman with something closer to pity than rage. Maren Solberg does not understand that she is not the first woman to believe she has unlocked the real Leon. She will not be the last. Leon collects women the way other men collect art, displaying them in different contexts, rotating them based on what each situation requires. I am the acquisition for public display. She is the acquisition for private consumption. Neither of us is loved. We are possessed. 3 weeks after the proposal, I tell Leon I accept. We are in the living room, the one that Architectural Digest praised for its seamless integration of mid-century modern and Pacific Northwest naturalism. He is drinking a 17-year scotch. I am drinking tea. I have been thinking about what you proposed, I say. He sets down his glass. His attention sharpens. And I think you are right, I continue. About evolution. About expanding our capacity for connection. The relief on his face is almost comic. He had been prepared for negotiation, for conditions, for the careful management of a reluctant wife. My agreement catches him off guard. Kim. His voice is thick with performed emotion. This means so much to me. This is going to be beautiful. We are going to grow so much together. He launches into logistics, ground rules, communication protocols, the importance of honesty and transparency. He speaks for 45 minutes about boundaries and check-ins and the sanctity of our primary partnership. Not once does he ask what I want. He assumes my desires are as irrelevant as they have always been. When he finally pauses, I ask a single question. Does this openness apply to both of us equally? Of course, he says. That is the whole point. Complete equality. Complete freedom. I nod. I smile. I tell him I am looking forward to seeing where this takes us. He kisses me with more passion than he has shown in months. He is so relieved, so pleased with his successful negotiation, that he does not notice the calculation behind my eyes. I have agreed to an open marriage, but not for the reasons he believes. I have agreed because I need time to understand the full scope of what he has been hiding. I have agreed because I need to consult with attorneys and accountants without raising suspicion. I have agreed because I am curious to see what happens when his rules apply to someone other than himself. And I have agreed because some part of me, buried beneath years of compromise, is ready to discover what happens when Kimberly Renard finally starts playing to win. Before we continue with Kimberly's story, I want to pause for just a moment, especially for those of you who might be watching this from a place of waiting. Maybe you are in a marriage that feels hollow. Maybe you are loving someone who does not see you. Maybe you are standing at the edge of a decision that terrifies you. I want to pray over you. Lord, we lift up every woman watching tonight who feels unseen in her own home, unheard in her own marriage, uncertain of her own worth. We pray for clarity where there is confusion, for courage where there is fear, and for your perfect peace that surpasses all understanding. Remind her that she is not alone. That you see every tear, every silent prayer, every moment of doubt. Guide her steps. Father, open doors that need to be opened, and close those that need to be closed. Give her wisdom to know the difference. In Jesus' name, amen. If you are finding yourself in Kimberly's story, drop a comment below. Let me know you are here. You are not invisible to this community, and you are not invisible to God. Now, if you are watching this far and have not subscribed yet, this is the moment. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because Kimberly's journey is about to take a turn none of us expected. And trust me, you want to see how this unfolds. Let us continue. The Denning Foundation Community Garden Initiative exists because Leon needed a philanthropic project with good optics. Urban greening. Community engagement. The kind of initiative that photographs well and generates positive press without requiring significant ongoing attention from the CEO himself. I volunteered to oversee the project because I needed something to do with my hands. Something that grew. Something that was alive in ways that my marriage no longer was. The site is an abandoned lot in one of Seattle's historically underserved neighborhoods. 3 acres of broken concrete, invasive weeds, and possibility. The city donated the land. The foundation donated the funding. And Graham Vesper donated the vision. I meet him on a Tuesday morning in April, when the Seattle drizzle has softened to mist, and the air smells of wet earth and the first promises of spring. He is kneeling in the dirt when I arrive, running soil through his fingers with the attention of someone reading Braille. His company, Vesper Landscape Architecture, specializes in urban ecological restoration. He has turned parking lots into pollinator sanctuaries. He has transformed highway medians into wildlife corridors. He sees potential where others see decay. And that, I will learn, is the defining quality of everything he does. Mrs. Denning. He stands, wipes his hands on his work pants, extends his hand to shake mine. His grip is firm and warm. Thank you for meeting me here. Kimberly, please, I say. And thank you for taking on this project. Your firm came highly recommended. He smiles. It is a different kind of smile than I am used to, the kind that reaches his eyes without any calculation behind it. We are excited about the possibilities. This site has remarkable bones. I look at the weed-choked lot, the shattered concrete, the chain-link fence tagged with graffiti. Bones seems generous. He laughs, following my gaze. I know it does not look like much yet, but the soil here is surprisingly healthy. Decades of neglect have actually allowed it to recover from whatever industrial use came before. And the light exposure is ideal for native pollinators. He begins walking the site, pointing out features I would never have noticed. A slight depression that could become a rain garden. A sunny corner, perfect for lavender. The way the surrounding buildings create a microclimate that extends the growing season by several weeks. I find myself following, asking questions. Not the polite questions of a benefactress checking on her investment, but genuine questions about root systems and companion planting and the specific needs of native bee populations. He notices. Or rather, he is the first person in years who notices when my interest shifts from performed to real. You have a background in this, he says. Art? History. Actually. I pause, surprised to be talking about myself. But I had a minor in environmental studies. I wrote my undergraduate thesis on the representation of gardens in Northern Renaissance painting. He stops walking, turns to face me fully. There is something in his expression I cannot quite name. Curiosity, perhaps. Recognition. That sounds fascinating, he says. I would love to hear more about it sometime. The silence that follows is comfortable. That is what strikes me most. The absence of the tension I have grown so accustomed to in conversation with Leon. The constant awareness of what he wants me to say next. I notice Graham's wedding ring. It is on his right hand now. The universal tell of the widowed. We continue walking the site. He explains his vision, the phased approach to transformation, the importance of community input in the design process. I listen and find myself actually listening, not performing attention while my mind wanders elsewhere. When we part, he hands me his card. His handwriting on the back lists several books about ecological restoration. In case you want to dig deeper, he says. Then he smiles at his own pun. A small, self-deprecating expression that is utterly unlike the polished charm I have grown accustomed to. I take the card. I find I am already looking forward to our next meeting. Over the following weeks, the community garden project becomes the fixed point around which my increasingly unstable life rotates. I attend every planning meeting. I review every design proposal. I walk the site with Graham as his team begins the painstaking work of transformation, removing invasive species, amending soil, laying the groundwork for what will bloom. Our conversations extend beyond the project. They have to, in a way. You cannot spend hours discussing root systems without eventually discussing what roots you, what grounds you, what you are trying to grow in your own life. Graham talks about his wife, Claire. Without the careful avoidance I expected. She died 3 years ago. Ovarian cancer. 18 months from diagnosis to the end. He speaks of her the way one speaks of a country you have lived in and loved and been exiled from. With grief. Yes, but also with a strange kind of peace. She loved cardinals, he tells me one afternoon, as we review plans for the native plant section. Brilliant red against winter snow. That was her favorite sight in the world. Now I plant flowers that attract them. Bee balm, sunflowers, cardinal flower, obviously. It is a way of keeping her close. I ask how he manages it, the grief, the continuing. He considers the question seriously. He does not offer platitudes or pivot to easier topics. He gives the question the weight it deserves. I think, he says slowly, that we have this idea that grief ends, that there is a period of mourning and then a return to normal. But there is no return. There is only forward. You learn to carry it differently. It becomes part of who you are. The way a bone heals stronger where it was broken. He pauses, looks at me with those eyes that seem to see more than I intend to show. But you know something about loss too, he says. I can tell. I am startled. Not offended, but genuinely surprised. No one has looked closely enough to see that in years. What makes you say that? He shrugs. The way you talk about who you used to be. Past tense. Like that person is someone you visit in memory, rather than someone you are. The silence that follows is not uncomfortable. It is the silence of being seen, which is entirely different from being watched. Leon watches me constantly, alert to whether I am performing correctly. Graham simply sees me. I was a curator, I say finally. A good one. I had opinions about art that mattered to people. I had a voice that took up space in rooms. And then I got married, and I stepped back, and I kept stepping back until I could not find my way to the front anymore. Why did you step back? Because he needed me to. Because the company was growing and someone had to manage the home and the social obligations and the image. Because I was in love and I thought that was what love meant. Sacrifice. Disappearing so someone else could expand. Graham nods. He does not offer advice or solutions. He just holds the truth I have spoken. What would you create? He asks quietly. If you had no one to impress. I stare at him. The question lands like a key finding its lock. I do not know, I admit. I have not asked myself that in so long that I forgot I was allowed to want things. He smiles, gentle and sad and knowing. Maybe it is time to start asking. The first kiss happens in the half-finished garden, on a late afternoon in May, when the newly planted lavender is just beginning to establish, and the distant hum of traffic mingles with birdsong. We have been planting together, side by side, the kind of physical work that strips away pretense. My hands are dirty. My hair has escaped its careful arrangement. I have not thought about my appearance in hours, and that freedom feels revolutionary. We have been talking about loss, about identity, about what happens when the life you built becomes unrecognizable. Graham has been telling me about the first year after Claire died, how he forgot how to grocery shop because she had always done it, how he stood in the cereal aisle once for 20 minutes. Paralyzed by choices he did not know how to make alone. I have been telling him about the child that never came. The window that narrowed and closed while Leon kept saying, not yet. After this funding round. Once, we are public. The excuses that accumulated until they became a wall. I think I knew, I say, pressing soil around a lavender seedling. On some level, I think I knew he was never going to say yes. But admitting that would have meant admitting I had built my life on a blueprint for a house he never intended to finish. Graham is quiet for a moment. His hands continue their work, but his attention is fully on me. That is a form of grief too, he says. Mourning the life you planned, that never arrived. I nod. Look up at him. Find him. Looking at me. The quality of the air changes. The birdsong seems to intensify, then fade. The traffic noise disappears. There is only this man, this garden, this moment. He leans in slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull back. I do not. The kiss is tentative, questioning. It is not passion, not in the consuming way that word suggests. It is something closer to recognition. Two people who have been invisible to their own lives, suddenly seeing each other. When we part, his eyes search my face. I should apologize, he says. Do not. But you are married. I am. I take a breath. My husband proposed an open marriage last month. He wanted the freedom to pursue other connections. I agreed. Graham's expression shifts. I see him processing this, fitting the pieces together. Do you want this? He asks. Or is this revenge? The question is direct and without judgment. It deserves an honest answer. I do not know, I admit. I think I want to feel something real. I think I want someone to see me. Not the image I have been maintaining. But I also know that nothing about this is simple. He nods slowly, takes my dirt-covered hand in his. I am not interested in being a weapon in someone else's war, he says. If we do this, whatever this is, I want it to be about us, not about him. I understand. And I want you to be honest with yourself, about what you want, about what you are willing to risk. I have lost enough in my life to know that dishonesty, even the kind we practice on ourselves, always comes with a cost. The sun is setting behind us, painting the sound in shades of gold and copper. The lavender around us releases its scent into the cooling air. I will try, I say. He smiles. That is all any of us can do. I tell Leon about Graham the next evening. Not about the kiss, but about the connection. I frame it as exploring the openness he proposed. I use his own language against him. Speaking of meaningful connection and authentic exploration, he receives the news with what appears to be enthusiasm. That is wonderful, Kim. He pours himself a scotch, his back to me. I am so glad you are embracing this journey. His voice is warm. His posture is tense. Tell me about him, he says, turning. What does he do? He is a landscape architect. He is designing the community garden for the foundation. Ah. Leon's smile does not change, but something behind his eyes does. That is nice. A creative type. He is very talented. His firm has won several national awards for ecological restoration. Leon nods, still smiling. And how did this connection develop? We work closely on the project. We have been spending a lot of time together. I take a sip of my wine. I thought you would want to know. Honesty and transparency. Like you said. Of course. Absolutely. His hand tightens almost imperceptibly around his glass. I am happy for you. This is exactly what I hoped for. He asks more questions. Graham's age, his background, his previous relationships. He asks with the air of a curious, supportive husband. But I have spent 12 years learning to read Leon Denning, and I see what he is trying to hide. His eyes are cold. His jaw is set. The muscles in his neck are tight, with a tension his smile cannot disguise. Leon Denning proposed an open marriage so that he could have permission without consequence. He did not expect his wife to take him up on it. He did not expect his rules to apply to anyone but himself. And now, watching him perform support while his control slips away, I understand something I should have recognized years ago. Leon does not want a partner. He wants a possession. One that waits where he leaves it and stays exactly as he arranged it. I am no longer that possession. I excuse myself to bed early. Leon stays up, drinking more than usual. I hear him pacing the living room. At midnight. I hear him on the phone at 2 a.m., his voice low and urgent, speaking to someone in hushed tones. I pretend to sleep. But I am wide awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling something unfamiliar, stirring in my chest. It takes me a moment to name it. It is hope. Dangerous, fragile, and utterly new. All right, family. I need to hear from you on this one. Kimberly is testing Leon's own rules against him. She is building a genuine connection with Graham, a man who actually sees her. And Leon, the man who demanded openness, cannot handle it when the openness applies to anyone but himself. Here is my question. Do you think Kimberly should have told Leon about Graham? Or should she have kept the relationship to herself? At least until she knew what she wanted. Was this honesty? Or was it strategy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And I want to know where you stand before we see how Leon reacts. If you have not liked this video yet, now is the time. We are about to see the mask come off completely. The change in Leon's behavior is subtle at first. Small adjustments that could be coincidence if I did not know better. He begins scheduling date nights on evenings when he knows I have garden project meetings. Conflict after conflict. Each one requiring my attendance at some donor dinner or board event or social obligation that cannot be moved. When I suggest rescheduling, he expresses regret that is performatively convincing, but structurally immovable. Sorry, Kim. This one has been on the calendar for months. You understand. I understand perfectly. He starts asking about my schedule with new intensity. Where are you going? When will you be back? Who will be there? Questions framed as loving interest that carry the weight of surveillance. He makes comments about Graham that begin as jokes and curdle into something harder. The landscaper, he calls him one evening. How is the landscaper? He is a landscape architect, I correct. There is a difference. Is there? Leon's smile is tight. I am sure he is very good with his hands. He is. He designs ecological restoration projects that have won national awards. Leon's jaw tightens. He returns to his phone, scrolling with unnecessary aggression. The comments continue. Escalate. He wonders aloud if I am confusing sympathy with attraction. He suggests that grief can make people vulnerable to connections that seem deeper than they are. He questions whether Graham is truly interested in me or in the access I provide to the Denning Foundation's resources. Each comment is delivered casually, as if in passing. Each one lands with precision. Meanwhile, his relationship with Marin intensifies. I see photos from a tech conference in Austin, posted by industry accounts. Leon and Marin in the background of shots, their body language unmistakable to anyone who knows what to look for. The way she leans into him, the way his hand hovers at her back. Whispers circulate through Axiom's hallways. I hear about them from the wife of a board member, delivered with the careful concern of someone hoping to deliver gossip while appearing sympathetic. I wanted you to hear it from a friend, she says. People are talking. I am sure it is nothing. I am sure it is not, I say. But thank you for letting me know. The confrontation happens on a Saturday morning, after a particularly venomous exchange about Graham. You seem tense lately, Leon says over breakfast. Is everything okay with the gardening project? The garden is thriving. I set down my coffee cup. And his name is Graham. Right. Graham. Leon's voice drips condescension. The widower with the flowers. How is he handling your situation? My situation? Being married. To me. I study my husband across the table. This man I have known for 14 years. Married for 12. This stranger wearing his face. He is handling it, I say carefully, with more grace than you are. Leon's composure cracks. His fork clatters against his plate. Excuse me? You wanted this, Leon. I keep my voice level. You proposed openness. You insisted on honesty. You gave me articles and therapists, and 45 minutes of ground rules. For us, he snaps. Not for you to parade some gardener around like a replacement. He is an architect, and I am not parading anyone. I am exploring a connection that fulfills me. Leon stands abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You are embarrassing me. People are talking. Board members are asking questions. About my connection, or about yours? The words hang in the air between us. Leon's face cycles through expressions. Anger, calculation, the careful reconstruction of control. What is that supposed to mean? I meet his eyes. Hold them. It means that people in glass houses probably should not throw stones. It means that if people are talking about me and a landscape architect, they are probably also talking about you and your chief people officer. It means that you do not get to demand freedom for yourself and fidelity from me. Silence. Long enough that I can hear the refrigerator hum, the clock tick, my own heartbeat. Then Leon does something I have rarely seen in our 12 years together. He has no response, no spin, no clever reframe. He simply says, I see. Good. I take my coffee and stand. I have a meeting at the garden site. I will be home for dinner. Unless you have scheduled another conflict I should know about. I walk out without waiting for his answer. My hands are shaking. My heart is racing. But for the first time, in longer than I can remember, I feel fully, completely alive. I do not look back. I am too busy looking forward. To an attorney's office, to a forensic accountant, to the next chapter of my life. We are at a turning point now, and I think many of you already know where this is heading. But here is what I want you to sit with. Leon is a man who demanded openness, but could not tolerate it when the openness applied to anyone but himself. Have you ever known someone like that? Someone who preached freedom, but practiced control? Someone whose rules only applied when they benefited from them? Let me know in the comments. And make sure you are subscribed with notifications on, because what Kimberly discovers next changes everything. We are not just talking about an affair anymore. We are talking about crimes. Victoria Chen's office is on the 43rd floor of a downtown Seattle tower, all glass and steel and the particular hush of expensive legal counsel. She wears a charcoal suit that cost more than most people's rent. And she looks at me across her desk with the calm assessment of a woman who has seen every version of this story. Mrs. Denning. She gestures for me to sit. Tell me what brings you here. I sit. I fold my hands. I tell her everything. The open marriage proposal. The affair I suspect has been going on far longer than Leon admits. The feeling that I am being maneuvered, positioned, outflanked, in a game I did not know I was playing. Victoria listens without interrupting. She takes occasional notes on a legal pad, her handwriting precise and illegible. When I finish, she sets down her pen. You are not the first wife of a tech executive to sit in that chair, she says. And you will not be the last. These men, they build companies based on disruption and innovation. And eventually they decide those principles should apply to their marriages too. They want to optimize, to scale. They forget that people are not products. What can I do? That depends. She leans forward. What do you want? I consider the question. It is not as simple as it seems. I want to understand what I am dealing with, I say finally. I want to know what he has been hiding. And I want to make sure that when this ends, I am not the one left with nothing. Victoria nods. Then we need to bring in Marcus. Marcus Webb looks like a man who finds hunting hidden money more exciting than any hobby. He has the rumpled intensity of someone who works 18-hour days, because the work itself is the reward. His office is cluttered with files and financial statements, and the debris of other people's carefully concealed secrets. He looks at our financial statements the way I once looked at Renaissance paintings, searching for the brushstroke that does not belong. Over several meetings, a picture emerges. It is not pretty. Leon has been systematically restructuring our assets for over a year, offshore accounts in jurisdictions known for their privacy, trusts with complex structures that obscure ownership, stock options transferred to entities that do not have my name on them. The pattern is clear to Marcus even when it was invisible to me. He is preparing, Marcus says, either for a divorce or for something else. But either way, he is moving assets out of reach. For how long? At least 14 months. Probably longer. This takes time to set up properly. 14 months. Longer than the open marriage conversation. Longer than I suspected. He knew. All along, Leon knew this marriage was ending. The open marriage proposal was not about saving anything. It was about establishing a narrative. If I agreed to openness, my eventual discovery of his affair could be reframed. We had an arrangement. We were both free to explore. Any claims I made about betrayal could be undermined by my own consent. It was never about evolution. It was about evidence. But Marcus finds something else. Something Leon does not know I know. The paper trail goes deeper than personal assets. There are expenses routed through Axiom that do not correspond to any business purpose. Travel charged to executive development that coincides with trips Leon took with Marin. Gifts expensed to client relations that were delivered to an apartment downtown. An apartment listed as satellite office space in the corporate records. An apartment where, according to utility records, no one has ever worked, but someone has definitely lived. He has been using company funds, I say. Marcus nods. Luxury travel. Accommodations. What appear to be personal purchases masked as business expenses. If these records are accurate, he is not just cheating on you. He is defrauding his shareholders. The implications settle over me slowly. I possess the evidence to destroy not just Leon's marriage, but his company, his reputation, his freedom. The question is, what kind of woman I want to be. I sit in Marcus's cluttered office, surrounded by the paper documentation of my husband's betrayal, and I consider my options. I could leak everything. Maximum damage, maximum humiliation. Salt the earth entirely. I could use it as leverage in the divorce, trading silence for a favorable settlement. I could turn it over to the authorities and let the system handle the consequences. Or I could do something else entirely. Something that does not require me to become the thing I am fighting. Marcus is watching me, waiting. Document everything, I say finally. Prepare the evidence, but do not move yet. I need to think. He nods. He has seen this before too. The moment when a betrayed spouse realizes that power and vengeance are not the same thing. I leave his office with copies of everything. In my bag is enough information to end Leon Denning's career, his freedom, and his carefully constructed image of progressive leadership. In my heart is a question I cannot yet answer. What kind of woman do I want to be when this is over? I find Graham at the community garden in the golden hour before sunset. He is alone, checking on the new plantings, his hands in the soil as always. He looks up as I approach. His face shifts through concern when he sees whatever expression I am wearing. Kimberly. Is everything okay? I sit beside him on the edge of a raised bed, surrounded by lavender and salvia and the soft hum of early bees. I need to ask you something, I say. And I need you to answer honestly. Of course. What do you do when you discover rot at the root? When the foundation of something is corrupted, do you burn everything down? Or do you try to save what you can? Graham considers the question with the seriousness it deserves. He does not rush to answer. He sits with it, turning it over the way he turns soil. I have seen gardens destroyed by overcorrection, he says finally. People so determined to eliminate every pest, every disease, every threat, that they poison the soil itself. They kill everything, trying to kill one thing. And then nothing grows. Not for years. Sometimes, not ever. So what is the alternative? Sometimes the alternative is simply allowing nature to take its course. Cutting away what is diseased. Creating conditions for health. But not playing God. Not trying to control every outcome. He pauses. The rot will reveal itself eventually. It always does. The question is, whether you want to be the one holding the torch when everything burns. I think about Leon at the gala in a few weeks. I think about the evidence in my bag. I think about the woman I was and the woman I am becoming. What if I have the torch? I say quietly. What if I could light the fire right now and watch it burn? Then you have a choice. He meets my eyes. You can burn it down, or you can step back and let the fire start itself. Either way, it burns. The only difference is who you are afterward. The sun is setting. The garden is settling into evening stillness. Somewhere nearby, a bird is singing its last song of the day. I spent 12 years arranging my life around Leon Denning, I say. Part of me wants to be the one who ends him. I understand that. But then I would still be arranging my life around him. Just in a different way. Graham nods slowly. That is the trap. Is it not? Revenge keeps you connected to the person who hurt you. You think you are taking power back. But really, you are just agreeing to stay in the ring. He takes my hand. His palm is rough from work, warm from the lingering sun. Whatever you decide, he says, I am here. Not to tell you what to do, not to rescue you, just to be present while you figure out who you want to be. I lean into him. Let myself be held in the dying light. For 12 years, I protected Leon. I curated his image. I managed the presentation of Leon Denning to the world. I arranged flowers and dinners and smiles and silences, all in service of a man who was never going to see me. All I have to do now is stop. The fire will start itself. Leon will light it with his own hubris, his own carelessness, his own inability to imagine consequences. I do not need to be the torch. I just need to stop being the firebreak. Let nature take its course. Let the rot reveal itself. And let me, finally, walk away. Drop a comment telling me what you would do with the evidence Kimberly has. Would you burn it down? Would you let nature take its course? Would you walk away entirely? I am reading every single comment. This community is what makes these stories matter. The weeks before the Axiom Summer Gala pass in a strange suspension. I am living two lives simultaneously, and neither of them feels entirely real. In one life, I am still Mrs. Leon Denning. I attend the events I am expected to attend. I wear the clothes I am expected to wear. I smile at the people I am expected to smile at and make the small talk I am expected to make. I am the CEO's wife, gracious and supportive, and utterly decorative. In the other life, I am building a case. Meeting with Victoria and Marcus in conference rooms that smell of coffee and expensive paper. Reviewing documents that reveal, layer by layer, the architecture of my husband's deception. Preparing for a divorce that Leon does not yet know is coming. The evidence Marcus has compiled is comprehensive. 2 years of expense reports showing personal travel charged to executive development. Hotel suites billed as off-site strategy sessions. The downtown apartment that appears in corporate records as satellite office space but has never hosted a single meeting. Gift purchases expensed to client relations that were delivered to Maren Solberg's home address. The pattern is damning. Leon has not just conducted an affair, he has funded it with shareholder money. He has used Axiom's resources to subsidize his betrayal. And in doing so, he has transformed a personal failing into a criminal liability. Victoria explains the implications over coffee in her glass-walled office. Securities fraud, she says. Breach of fiduciary duty. Potentially wire fraud, depending on how the transactions were structured. If this goes to the SEC, if it goes to federal prosecutors, he is looking at significant exposure. How significant? Years. Fines in the millions. The destruction of everything he has built. I absorb this. The weight of it. The power. And what happens to me if this comes out? Victoria sets down her cup. That depends on how it comes out. If you are the one who reports it, you are a whistleblower. Protected. Potentially rewarded. If it emerges through other channels, you are simply the ex-wife who cooperated with investigators. Either way, your settlement is secured. The prenuptial agreement has a morality clause that Leon violated the moment he used company funds for the affair. That alone entitles you to the full marital estate. So, I have options. You have significant leverage. She pauses. The question is how you want to use it. I think about the gala. 2 weeks away now. 600 guests. Live streaming screens. The entire Seattle tech establishment gathered to celebrate Axiom's success. I think about Leon and Maren, growing careless in their certainty that they are untouchable. I think about the woman I was when I married him, the woman I became in the years since, the woman I am choosing to be now. I do not want to be the one who destroys him, I say finally, but I am done protecting him. Victoria nods. She understands. Then we prepare everything, she says. File for divorce the Monday after the gala. Serve papers with discovery requests that will force full disclosure. And let whatever happens at that party happen without your interference. And if nothing happens, then we proceed with the divorce and let the forensic evidence speak for itself. Either way, you walk out of this marriage with your dignity and your fair share of the assets. I signed the papers that afternoon. Divorce petition. Discovery requests. The formal machinery of ending a marriage. In 2 weeks, everything changes. But first, I have to survive the performance one last time. The night before the gala, I stand in my closet selecting a dress. This room is the size of my childhood bedroom. It contains more clothes than my mother owned in her entire life. Silk and cashmere and wool, so fine it feels like water against the skin. Each piece carefully chosen to project a specific image. The uniform of a CEO's wife. I reach past the safe choices, the neutral palettes, the garments designed to blend into the background. My hand finds midnight blue. Dior. A dress I bought 3 years ago and never wore because Leon said it was too dramatic for a supporting role. Tonight I am not playing a supporting role. I try it on. The fabric falls like a second skin, structured and flowing at once. The color is deep enough to read as black from a distance, but reveals its true nature in the light. It is a dress for endings and beginnings both. I study myself in the mirror. 12 years. 12 years of becoming Mrs. Leon Denning, of arranging my life around his ambitions, his image, his needs. 12 years of shrinking to fit the space he allocated for me. Tonight will be the last night that name means anything at all. I think about Kimberly Renard, the woman I was before I disappeared into this marriage, the curator, who could spend hours debating brushstroke technique, the daughter of a jazz musician and a literature professor who learned to find beauty in unexpected places, the woman who once told a brash young executive that data could never quantify the sublime. She is still in there, buried beneath years of accommodation, waiting. Tomorrow, the papers will be filed. Monday, they will be served. By this time next week, the whole world will know that Leon Denning's perfect marriage was as much a performance as his TED Talks. But tonight, one last time, I will play the part. I will smile and charm and pretend. I will watch my husband work the room with his calculated warmth. I will stand beside him for photographs and make small talk with board members who have never bothered to learn my name. And when the moment comes, whatever that moment turns out to be, I will be ready. And this 5, and from now nay, and first wive, and ready. I hang the dress carefully, lay out the shoes, the jewelry, the evening bag, the costume for my final performance. Then, I go to bed alone. Leon is in his study, on calls that run past midnight, his voice low and urgent through the closed door. I do not wonder who he is talking to anymore. I do not care. Sleep comes easily. The sleep of someone who has made peace with what is coming. We have arrived at the night that changes everything. The gala. 600 people. Live streaming screens. And 2 people who think their secrets are still safe. But before we go there, I have to ask. Kimberly has evidence that could send Leon to prison. She could leak it tonight, maximize his humiliation, salt the earth entirely. Part of me wonders if he deserves exactly that. What would you do? If you had that kind of power over someone who betrayed you, would you use it? Would you destroy them completely? Or would you draw a line? Let me know in the comments. Now let us see how 8 seconds can end a 12-year marriage. The Axiom Dynamics Summer Celebration occupies the entire waterfront venue, a soaring space of glass and steel that opens onto Elliott Bay. The setting sun paints the water gold and copper as the first guests arrive. String quartets play tasteful background music. Waiters circulate with champagne flutes and artisanal hors d'oeuvres. The smell of money and ambition perfumes the air. I arrive on Leon's arm, performing the role of devoted wife one final time. He looks handsome tonight. I can acknowledge that objectively. The tailored tuxedo, the silver at his temples, the particular way he commands attention, simply by entering a room. There was a time when that presence made me feel proud, reflected glory warming me from within. Now I feel nothing. Just the calm detachment of an observer watching a play she has seen too many times. You look stunning, Leon says as we pose for photographers at the entrance. That dress is incredible. Thank you. He does not notice that I do not return the compliment. He is already scanning the room, identifying the people who matter, calculating his trajectory through the crowd. The board chair is by the bar. I should start there. He squeezes my arm. You will be all right on your own for a bit? I will be fine. I always am. The irony is lost on him. He disappears into the crowd, magnetic and purposeful, leaving me standing in his wake. I take a champagne flute from a passing waiter. I do not intend to drink it, but the glass gives my hands something to do, something to hold, while I hold myself together. The next 2 hours are a masterclass in performance. I smile at board members who have never bothered to learn my name. I compliment wives who see me as competition for social position. I make small talk with investors about children I do not have, and vacations I did not take, and the charitable foundation I manage on Leon's behalf. Each interaction is perfect. Each smile precisely calibrated. I am gracious, charming, and utterly hollow. And no one can tell the difference, because no one has ever looked closely enough to notice. Leon works the room with his usual brilliance. He remembers names, references, previous conversations, makes everyone feel like the only person who matters. His hand finds backs to pat, shoulders to squeeze, arms to grip with manufactured warmth. I watch him cross paths with Maren Solberg several times. Their interactions are carefully professional. The forced distance of people trying too hard to seem unconnected. She wears emerald green tonight, a color that suits her coloring. She looks confident, assured, the glow of a woman who believes her position is secure. She does not know what I know. Neither of them do. Leon's drinking is heavier than usual. Champagne gives way to whiskey, one glass following another with increasing frequency. His voice grows louder, his gestures more expansive. The careful control that defines him in public is slipping, loosened by alcohol and the particular arrogance that comes from believing yourself untouchable. Maren matches his pace, though she hides it better. Their eyes meet across the room with increasing frequency. The professional distance erodes with each passing hour. I position myself near the bar, nursing my untouched champagne, and wait. The massive screens around the venue cycle through images, company milestones, product launches, team photos from retreats and offsites, smiling faces, celebrating Axiom's success story. The visual narrative of a company built on innovation and culture, and the singular vision of its founder. The screens are meant to reinforce the mythology. They are about to expose the man behind it. It happens at 9:47. I am standing near the edge of the room, engaged in conversation with a museum director I once worked with, when the quality of the air changes. The murmur of 600 voices shifts, takes on a different frequency. Heads begin to turn. Conversations falter and stop. I follow the gazes to the screen nearest me. The image is frozen. Not one of the curated company photos. Something captured live, pulled from the social media feeds that are integrated into the display system. My husband, his chief people officer, their bodies pressed together in what was supposed to be a private corner. Their kiss unmistakable, even from a distance, even in the imperfect resolution of a phone camera held at an angle. The image holds for 8 seconds. An eternity. A lifetime. Long enough for every person in the room to see. Long enough for phones to emerge from pockets. Long enough for the first screenshots to be taken. The first messages to be sent. The first posts to go live. Then a panic technician kills the feed. Silence. The particular quality of silence, when 600 people collectively stop breathing. I set down my champagne. The glass makes a soft sound against the bar. I watch the ripples spread through the room. The whispered conversations igniting like brush fires. The heads turning to locate the principals in this sudden drama. Leon emerges from the corner that was not as private as he believed. His face cycles through expressions. confusion, horror. The desperate calculation of a man realizing his carefully constructed world is collapsing in real time. Maren follows a few steps behind, her emerald dress suddenly garish, her confidence crumbling. Her hand finds her mouth. Her eyes are wide with the particular terror of someone who has just become a cautionary tale. Leon's gaze sweeps the room, searching for something to control, searching for a narrative to spin. His eyes find mine. I am standing perfectly still, my face composed, my posture relaxed. I am not crying. I am not storming toward him. I am not providing any of the reactions he might have expected from a betrayed wife. Instead, I smile. Not with cruelty. Not with triumph. Just the small, peaceful smile of someone who has been released from a burden she carried too long. His face changes. Recognition dawns. He understands, in that moment, that I knew, that I have known for some time, that his careful performance has been seen, catalogued, and prepared for. The truth, finally, is visible for everyone to see. I no longer have to carry it alone. Around us, the room dissolves into chaos. Phones are everywhere now. Conversations explode into urgent whispers. Board members cluster together, faces grim. Junior employees look at each other with barely suppressed excitement, sensing career opportunities in the carnage. Someone approaches Leon, the board chair, his face thunderous. Words are exchanged, too quiet for me to hear, but the body language speaks volumes. Maren disappears. I catch a glimpse of emerald green moving rapidly toward an exit. Head down, hand still covering her mouth. And I stand at the edge of it all, finally, completely free. The 72 hours following the gala unfold like a controlled demolition. Each charge goes off in sequence, bringing down a different section of the structure Leon spent 12 years building. Hour 1 through 12. The viral storm. The footage is everywhere before the valet brings the first cars around. Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, every platform that matters, and several that should not. Industry blogs pick it up within the hour. Tech journalists who have covered Axiom for years begin making calls, seeking comment, sensing blood in the water. The headlines crystallize with devastating efficiency. Tech CEO, caught with subordinate. At company event. Axiom founders affair. Exposed at summer gala. The open secret nobody wanted to see. The word subordinate does heavy work. It raises immediate questions about consent, power dynamics, the obligations of executives toward the people they employ. Corporate HR policies against exactly this kind of relationship are cited. Experts in workplace ethics offer commentary. The narrative shifts from personal scandal to institutional failure. I watch from the Mercer Island house, alone, as my husband's reputation burns. He calls 6 times in the first 4 hours. I do not answer. He texts with increasing desperation. Please, Kim. We need to talk. This is not what it looks like. I can explain. I do not respond. What would I say? What explanation could possibly matter now? Hour 12 through 36. The institutional response. The Axiom board convenes an emergency session. I know this because Victoria Chen has connections on the board, and she keeps me informed through carefully worded updates that protect attorney-client privilege while ensuring I understand the trajectory. Investors are calling. Not to offer support, but to calculate exposure. The stock price begins to slide in after hours trading. Institutional holders are reassessing their positions. The calculus of loyalty gives way to the calculus of liability. Legal begins reviewing every interaction between Leon and Maren. Every email, every meeting, every decision that involved her promotion, her compensation, her role in the company. Looking for evidence of favorable treatment, looking for evidence of pressure, looking for the exposure that might already exist. Former employees begin to emerge. Women who left the company quietly, with NDAs and severance packages that bought their silence. Stories about Leon's boundary issues, his casual touches that were not quite casual enough, his particular attention to young female executives who caught his eye. None of it reaches the level of legal liability. All of it shapes the narrative. Hour 36 through 72. The collapse. Victoria Chen serves the divorce papers at 7 a.m. on Monday morning. A process server appears at the Axiom campus just as Leon arrives for an emergency meeting with his lawyers. The timing is not coincidental. The papers include discovery requests that will force full disclosure of Leon's finances. Every offshore account, every trust, every creative corporate structure, designed to shield assets from exactly this moment. They also include evidence of the misappropriated funds. Not all of it, just enough to signal that I know. That the forensic examination has been thorough. That any attempt to hide assets or minimize the settlement will result in criminal exposure. Leon calls again. This time, I answer. Kim. His voice is ragged, exhausted, stripped of its usual polish. Please, we can work this out. I do not think we can. I will end things with Marin. Completely. I will go to counseling. Whatever you want. I will. I wait. Let the silence stretch. You will what, Leon? Tell me how we can evolve? His breath catches. He remembers. The word he used when he proposed this arrangement. The word I am now using. To close it. I never meant for this to happen, he says. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. For years. And the only thing that has changed is that now, everyone knows. More silence. The sound of a man running out of narratives. You wanted openness, I say quietly. Now you have it. Everyone sees exactly who you are. I hang up. I stand in the living room of the house I have curated for 12 years, surrounded by art I selected, and furniture I arranged, and flowers I grew, and cut, and placed in exactly the right vessels, in exactly the right light. None of it is mine anymore. None of it ever was. The board removes Leon as CEO the following day. The official statement cites conduct inconsistent with company values and a need for leadership that reflects Axiom's commitment to integrity. The actual reason is simpler. He has become a liability. A symbol of exactly the kind of corporate culture the company has spent years claiming to oppose. Marin resigns before she can be terminated. Her departure is quiet, with an NDA that prevents her from discussing the circumstances. She will surface eventually in Chicago, attempting to rebuild her reputation with carefully worded apologies that satisfy no one. Criminal referrals are made regarding the misappropriated funds. Not by me. By the board, acting on the advice of counsel, seeking to distance themselves from the scandal by demonstrating their commitment to accountability. Leon faces federal investigation. His legal fees will consume much of whatever remains after the divorce settlement. And I stand in the garden I helped design, watching Graham turn the soil, and for the first time in 12 years, I breathe without weight. And just like that, everything Leon built came down around him. Not because Kimberly destroyed him, but because he destroyed himself. And she simply stopped, standing in the way. That distinction matters. It is the difference between revenge and redemption. Between becoming like the person who hurt you and becoming yourself, despite what they did. If this story is hitting different for you right now, if you are seeing something of your own situation in Kimberly's journey, I want you to know, you are not alone. Drop a comment. Tell me what you are feeling. This community is here for you. Now let us see where Kimberly goes from here. 6 months later. The house I live in now is nothing like the Mercer Island estate. It is a craftsman bungalow in a quiet Seattle neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, one of which I have converted into a studio. A small garden in the back, where I am learning to grow vegetables instead of just flowers. A kitchen with butcher block countertops that show every scratch and stain. It is imperfect. It is honest. It is mine. I bought it with cash from the settlement. $32 million. More than half of Leon's declared net worth. The forensic evidence ensured he could not hide assets without risking criminal exposure. The morality clause in the prenuptial agreement, which he insisted on to protect himself, became the instrument of his financial reckoning. The Mercer Island house sold within 3 weeks of listing. A tech executive and his wife bought it, eager to own the property they had seen in architectural magazines. I did not tell them about the silence that lived in those walls. They will discover it themselves soon enough. I am working again, not as a curator, not exactly, but close enough to remember who I used to be. I consult for museums on community engagement programs, helping institutions connect with the neighborhoods around them. It is work that matters. Work that creates, rather than curates. The community garden has become a model, national recognition, features in sustainable design publications, tours for urban planners from other cities who want to understand how we transformed an abandoned lot into a thriving ecosystem. The lavender is waist-high now. The pollinator flowers attract butterflies I can name and bees whose movements I understand. I go there often. It is where I feel most like myself. Leon faces federal charges for securities fraud. The investigation revealed more than even Marcus had discovered. Patterns of financial manipulation, extending back years. Creative accounting that skirted the edge of legality and sometimes crossed it. The behavior of a man so convinced of his own exceptionalism that he stopped believing consequences applied to him. His legal fees have consumed most of his remaining wealth. The lawyers who once surrounded him like a protective shield now send invoices he struggles to pay. The speaking engagements that once commanded $50,000 have dried up. The boards that once courted his participation have quietly removed his name from consideration. I do not follow the case closely. I did my part by telling the truth. The rest belongs to systems larger than my marriage. Maren has resurfaced in Chicago. She has given interviews to industry publications, carefully worded explanations that position her as a victim of her own naivety. She expresses regret for her choices. She does not apologize to me directly. I find I do not need her apology. I find I do not need anything from her at all. She was looking for something when she attached herself to Leon. Access. Validation. The feeling of being chosen by someone powerful. I understand those desires. I felt them myself. Once. The difference is that I woke up eventually. I hope she does too. Graham is a constant presence now, though we are taking things slowly. He understands that I need time. Time to rediscover who I am outside the shadow of Leon Denning. Time to learn how to want things for myself, instead of arranging my desires around someone else's. Time to trust that I can be seen without being consumed. He does not try to rescue me. He does not position himself as the solution to problems I need to solve alone. He simply shows up. Consistently. Patiently. With coffee made exactly the way I like it, and questions about what I am thinking, and the kind of silence that does not demand to be filled. Some evenings we cook dinner together in my imperfect kitchen. He teaches me which vegetables grow well in the Pacific Northwest, and I teach him about the art I used to study. We talk about Claire sometimes, about the life they built and the way it ended, about the grief that never fully disappears but slowly becomes manageable. He tells me about the first year after she died, how he forgot how to do things she had always handled, how he stood in grocery store aisles, paralyzed by choices, how he learned to navigate a world that had lost its familiar shape. I understand that now, I tell him, losing someone who is still alive, learning to exist in a life that looks nothing like the one you planned. He takes my hand. We sit on my porch in the gathering dusk, watching the light change over the city. It gets easier, he says. Not better, exactly. Different. You learn to carry it differently. I am learning. He smiles. I know. The final conversation happens on an evening in October, when the garden has begun its slow retreat into dormancy. The lavender is still fragrant, though the blooms have faded. The pollinator flowers have gone to seed, their dried heads providing food for late-season birds. The light is golden and slanted, the particular quality of autumn in the Pacific Northwest. I walk the paths we designed together, Graham beside me. The soil beneath my feet is rich and dark, transformed by months of careful tending from the depleted gray concrete dust it once was. This garden was supposed to be about optics, I say. Something for Leon to point to when people questioned whether he cared about anything beyond profit. And now? Now it is about roots. Mine, specifically. He smiles, hands me a coffee cup. Cardamom. Exactly as I like it. We walk in comfortable silence. The city hums in the distance. But here, it is quiet. Just the rustle of dried leaves, and the occasional call of a bird settling in for the night. You could have destroyed him more completely, Graham says eventually. I have been thinking about that. The evidence you had. The exposure you could have engineered. Why did you hold back? I consider the question. I have considered it many times in the months since the gala. The criminal charges came from the forensic evidence I provided. The public exposure came from Leon's own hubris. His own inability to imagine consequences. His own choice to kiss his mistress in a corner, with a sightline to a public screen. But I could have done more. I could have leaked everything. I could have orchestrated the humiliation, timed the revelations for maximum damage, salted the earth so thoroughly that nothing would ever grow there again. I did not. Because then I would be building my future on his destruction, I say finally. I spent 12 years arranging my life around Leon Denning. I am not spending another minute on him. Graham nods. He understands, perhaps better than anyone, that the opposite of love is not hate. It is indifference. And I have finally arrived at indifference. The most peaceful place I have ever been. The sun is setting now, painting Puget Sound in shades of gold and amber. The light catches the water, transforms it into something molten and alive. I watch the colors shift and change. I feel Graham's presence beside me, solid and patient and real. I think about the woman I was when this started, and the woman I am becoming. 12 years ago, I stood in a gallery and told a brash young executive that data could never quantify beauty, that some things existed beyond measurement, beyond optimization, beyond the control of men who thought everything could be reduced to spreadsheets and strategies. I forgot that lesson for a long time. I let myself be quantified, optimized, reduced to a function in someone else's life. I am learning to be immeasurable again. Graham takes my hand. His palm is rough from work, warm from the coffee cup, familiar from months of this quiet rebuilding. What are you thinking? He asks. I am thinking about what I want to create next. Any ideas? A few. I squeeze his hand. But I am not in a hurry anymore. I have time. He smiles. The sun sinks lower. The garden settles into evening stillness. For 12 years, I was an accessory. A supporting character in someone else's story. A curator of another person's image. Now I am the artist. The canvas is mine. And I am ready, finally, to begin. I take a breath of evening air, rich with the scent of lavender and soil, and the coming autumn. I am ready to create something new. So, what did 12 years of marriage to Leon Denning teach me? It taught me that the cage you tolerate becomes the life you accept. Every compromise I made, every opinion I swallowed, every piece of myself I tucked away to make room for his ambitions, became another bar in a prison I was building with my own hands. It taught me that openness without equality is just permission to betray. Leon wanted freedom for himself and fidelity from me. He dressed it up in progressive language, in articles and statistics and therapy sessions. But the core was always the same. He wanted control disguised as liberation. It taught me that the most powerful person in any room is not the one with the title or the money or the spotlight. It is the person who knows the truth and has made peace with it. But here is the deeper lesson, the one I wish I had learned before I lost a decade to a man who never saw me. Your silence is never neutral. When you stop advocating for yourself, you are not keeping the peace. You are becoming the carpet that someone else walks on. And the longer you lie there, the harder it becomes to remember you were ever meant to stand. Leon wanted an open marriage because he thought openness meant freedom without consequence. He thought he could rewrite the rules in his favor and call it evolution. He thought I would accept the arrangement because I had accepted everything else. But real openness, the kind that heals instead of destroys, requires you to be open with yourself first, to see clearly, to want honestly, to know that you deserve better, even when the person who should love you most is telling you that you do not. That is not evolution. That is liberation. And you do not need anyone's permission to be free. Leon Denning did not lose because I destroyed him. He lost because he destroyed himself. He lit the fire with his own hubris, his own carelessness, his own inability to imagine that his actions might have consequences. All I did was stop standing in the way. All I did was stop protecting him from the natural outcome of his choices. And in that stepping back, I found space to step forward into a life that was finally, completely mine. This has been the Isle of Secrets. And today's secret is this. The opposite of erasure is not revenge. It is creation. And you get to decide, starting today, exactly what you will build with the life that remains. I am praying for every woman watching this who sees herself in Kimberly's story. You are seen. You are valuable. You are worthy of love that does not require you to disappear. And your next chapter is waiting to be written. By you, for you. Lord, we come before you now with hearts full of gratitude for every woman who has watched this story to the end. We thank you for the courage it takes to see ourselves in difficult narratives, to face hard truths, to consider what changes might be needed in our own lives. We pray for strength for every woman in a marriage that is slowly erasing her. Give her eyes to see her situation clearly. Give her wisdom to know what steps to take. Give her courage to take them, even when the path forward is frightening. We pray for healing for every woman who has already walked through the fire. Mend what was broken. Restore what was stolen. Transform the scars into testimonies of your faithfulness. And we pray for hope. Abundant, overflowing hope, the kind that does not depend on circumstances, but rests securely in your promises. May every woman watching this know in the depths of her soul that she is not alone, that you see her, that you love her, that you have plans for her future that are good and full of possibility. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for walking through this story with me. If this one resonated with you, if you found yourself in Kimberly's shoes or Graham's patience, or even in Leon's desperate grasping for control, I want to hear about it in the comments. And if you have not subscribed yet, this is your invitation. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because we tell stories here that matter. Stories about love and betrayal, and the incredible strength it takes to walk away from what is killing you slowly and toward what might bring you back to life. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. You never know whose liberation starts with a story. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember, you are the architect of your own becoming. Build something beautiful.